Hey friends, SGT here. With the markets being absolutely annihilated today and silver being slammed $2.40 in only 40 minutes flat, it seems clear to me that the banksters are prepping the people for yet more QE. It's all part of their games, and their games are based on fear. And to get perspective on these markets, where we're at, and the overwhelming fundamentals of the silver story, let's get James Anderson on the line, the managing director of goldsilver.com. James, welcome back.
Thank you so much for having me again. I'm just very thrilled to be here, so thank you.
It's always a pleasure to talk to you guys over at goldsilver.com. We love to check out your website on a daily basis, good information, and lately, we've been mirroring back and forth on some of our content, haven't we?
Yeah, it's been fun. You jumped the gun. You got out there very quickly in the middle of July with that story on Money Magazine, and it was a real eye-opener. I went, right after I saw your video, I went to the 3rd Street Promenade and picked up a magazine myself. And, I think the first story was the one I caught of yours. It just had the cover of the Silver Eagles and money behind it.
Sure.
And when I opened up to page 21 and saw that gold picture, my jaw just dropped. And just the headlines on both those different, sides of the magazine. I think one said something about, wringing yield out of your savings, while they're wringing the dollar and gold's just dripping out of it. I don't know exactly whose plan that was, but when you look at it, the article, all it does is point people toward high-yield checking accounts, online savings accounts, low penalty long CDs. I think there was I-bonds in there. All those are just paper instruments. Those are all the people who are going to be on the other end of the wealth transfer. They'll show you one thing with pictures, and then they'll tell you a totally different thing. And the key is just to know history and to know where the fundamentals lie.
Yeah, that's right. And meanwhile, the Federal Reserve and our own politicians are actively destroying the dollar. I wanted to run this by you. Michael Pinto recently said that not raising the debt limit was America's best last chance at retaining this republic. And he was very passionate about it. And then they came to the deal, and they're going to raise the debt limit. And I think our fate is sealed. What do you guys think over there at goldsilver.com?
They do this all the time, and usually it's behind the scenes. But this time, it was a real big event. They made it, it dragged on for weeks. And throughout the mainstream media, you saw the word for the first time, default, in bold letters everywhere. And so now default is part of like the mainstream lexicon. I think people on the street now have been conditioned to hear that word default. Mm-hmm. And down the line, if there ever is a potential financial crisis or some type of currency collapse, that word default will come again, and people will be conditioned to accept that. They were warned before. It happened in the summer, and a couple of years later, it happened for real, or whenever it possibly could happen in the future. It's just you kind of if that's going to be happening, you kind of have to condition the masses to get used to it.
Yeah, and you know what? I think the real ruse in using that word default, too, it's been pointed out by Peter Schiff and others that there was actually no real risk of a default because we could pay our $300 billion a year in interest obligations on the debt, with the $2 trillion in tax receipts coming in. There was no real actual danger of default. But what this does is it seals our fate moving forward, doesn't it? Because as we pile on additional trillions of dollars of debt, which is now inevitable, that they're just going to continue to do this in perpetuity, that ultimately there will come a point where we truly will default if interest rates move up, if, et cetera, et cetera. So really now it's baked in the cake. I mean, our fate is truly sealed, isn't it?
Well, that's what we're doing as we speak. The dollar, you can see gold, what's happening. It's we're defaulting it might not be like a technical, quick strike default, but we're doing it slowly and precipitously. Mm-hmm. And that's where we're headed. And this type of whipping up of the word default and having all these headlines, that's just a small blip on the radar and the big scheme of things. Essentially we think that we're going to lose a good 60-70% of our dollar from now toward, the end game of this entire thing. And so, in the midst of that, there's going to be all types of different things that are going to occur. But the end result is those who held dollars are going to lose the majority of their wealth.
James, I had a question come in recently from a viewer who was asking about the mining shares, and the mining shares really have not partaken in this recent rally, in gold specifically, and silver's done well also. I know you guys are extremely bullish on silver over there. Mike Maloney has always been very passionate about silver, and physical silver specifically as an investment, as an opportunity, as a hedge against a calamity. What do you guys think about the mining shares at this point, too?
At this point, the way that we invest, we really do practice what we preach. We really go full on in bullion. I personally, 100% in bullion. I did in the beginning when I started working with Mike. I had mining shares, and a lot of them performed very well in like 2008, 2009, and they're nice. You only get a 15% capital gains on them compared to the higher capital gains on bullion. But all of the risks that are inherent with mining stocks, and the fact that all these different things can happen. You can have mining strikes. It could be in a geopolitical zone where the mine could get nationalized. The games that are played with mining shares behind the scenes. For me, essentially, this entire thing is basically a fear trade. Is basically you own bullion because of the fear of the fact that our currency is going to lose a lot of value and it could collapse pretty much any time. So for us, I lean more toward bullion because I know that's real money. That's something tangible I own without any counterparty risk. I can depend on myself. I know that. Essentially, when you have a mining share, there are counterparty risks. There's a lot of them. Obviously, with more risk, there's higher potential for gains. But for myself, I really, really don't want to be caught in a situation where there's all of a sudden some type of bank crisis and they lock up all the brokerage accounts and I can't access my funds. That would just turn me, I would just be very angry with myself letting that happen to me because that potentially could. And I, that's just something I just won't allow.
Now, it would seem to me that this government is truly turned the corner towards red alert level tyranny, and I say that because I think buried in this debt agreement, this debt ceiling agreement, is this super Congress, which to me is hyper Orwellian. It is language that is as Orwellian as the Patriot Act. It's always the opposite. They love to give it a smiley face name. The super Congress is anything. It should be called the super tyranny. So what are they doing here, James? I mean, right now we're talking about such blatant anti-constitutional behavior from our government that there can be no other conclusion from those who are paying attention than we're really in the ninth inning here, aren't we?
Yeah, we're getting toward there. I mean, it's everywhere you look, you're getting slapped in the face. It's distraction here, slap in the face after the distraction's done. And that's basically what's happened here. The Super Congress is more or less like a ring of 12 dictators, yes men who've been bought and paid for, who will basically go along with the taking America under. I mean, that's basically what that looks like to me from the outside. I haven't delved into all the details, but from what I hear, it's very scary in the fact that nobody's doing anything about it. That's the part that is really hard to take, is the fact that nobody's really getting up in arms about it seems.
This concludes part 1. Click here for part 2.